suggesting last week, when we talk about Black history, we usually talk about it as the month of February. Well, we're changing that. We're going to talk about Black history 12 months out of the year from now on. This morning, I'm going to be talking about two things that everybody here knows something about: Black women and Black men. I believe everybody knows about that. And when I started to think about Black women, a person came to mind, my grandmother, whose name is Annis Will Scarborough. We call her Mama. And Mama she was a person that really didn't have any education. I think she went to the 2nd grade, but she's the wisest person that I'd ever known, and that I have ever known since. Mama was sort of elevated for me, because she was my example. I grew up in a home that was predominantly female. My grandmother, my mother, and 3 aunts. And all of them had a plan. And that plan was to make sure that their children were satisfied with themselves. And one of the things that they did for me, they always talked about the importance of mama. But one of my aunts, she was the comedian in the family. She would always say, well, Brown, that's what they call me. Brown, you and Mama, the blackest ones in the family. And that was important for me at the time, because if I was in line with Mama, I was all right. Yeah. And what they were doing, they were putting blackness in me so that I could appreciate being black. And that was very, very important for me growing up. And I learned that later, of course. So Mama and I were sort of kindred spirits. In talking about Black women, I wrote this little piece, and the things that I will read to you, one is on the Black women, and the other one is on Black men. The one on Black women, it reads as such: the history of Black women spans hundreds of thousands of years. According to anthropologists, a Black woman named Lucy is the mother of all humankind. Though in a more modern yet ancient African history, the Black queens Sheba, Nefertiti, Cleopatra, their presence were magnanimous. In the New World, heroines such as Phyllis Wheatley, Sojourner Truth, Harriet Tubman, Ida B. Wells Barnett, Mary McLeod Bethune, Rosa Parks, Fannie Lou Hamer, Barbara Huntley, Annie Scarborough, among millions of others who remain unheralded and unnamed. They helped to create an atmosphere that would be conducive to change. Without the courage and the fortitude of these women, the world would be a very different place. One could even ask the question if the world would even exist. The greatness of the men of the world can be reduced to a single common denominator: their mothers. Then it would be appropriate to consider Black women as the Alpha and Omega, the beginning and the end. Now, I wrote that in 1996. And I was wondering, with the other things that I will share with you, you'll see that I started writing a long time ago, and I didn't really know why I was writing. But one of the reasons I was writing those was because of Barbara. You know, she was that person who gave me the encouragement and consistently told me how good I was. And I know that she stretched the truth somewhat there. But nevertheless, that was one of the reasons. In looking at Black history, we obviously are going to look at things that were rather devastating to an extent. But by the same token, that devastation led to our becoming somebody. You know. This piece I wrote on the black man. And I wrote this on April 18, 2001. And it reads as such. In the 17th century, we were kidnapped and stripped of our family, our name, our minds, then whipped. And they asked, what's wrong with the black man? Can he survive? You bet he can. The 18th century was the first 100 years of the North American diaspora where aliens were cheers. And they asked, what's wrong with the black man? He's being made over in this strange land. The 19th century is ushered in with slavery. Cotton becomes king, and for America, that's gravy. But along came two sons, Gabriel, VC, and Nat. A strange freedom actually sets us back. The 20th century walks in on Jim Crow. Black men suffer from sharecropping, convict lease, and much more. From the NAACP to the UNIA to the Nation of Islam and SNCC, unity is the call. Can we get there quick? We have been stripped, whipped, enslaved, and Jim Crow. But like a true fighter, standing after being flowed. Sure, we have problems that we are trying to work out, but the deck is still stacked, and we are as ragged as crap. But the measure of the black man is not where we are. From the attempted strip, we have traveled quite far. Amen. Actual warfare has been the name of this game. The latest weapon to maintain white supremacy is crack cocaine. Sin Q said we would return to our motherland. Up with you, mighty race, was Marcus Garvey's plan. Benjamin Pap Singleton led us out of the prairie. Malcolm shouted out to all, by any means necessary. So we ask, what's wrong with the black man? It is a wonder that he can even stand, but ride we must, as we did from the plantation. Overcoming adversity has been our salvation. That is who the black man is. I have looked at this history that we've been talking about, and it just appears to me that there has been a war against the black community, black men, black women, and children. Especially against black men. Some say, well, what do you mean? Why do you say that? I'm going to give you a few reasons why I say that. The inability of a black man to protect himself from bodily harm from any white man, that has been the ultimate situation where we couldn't even protect our own. The inability to protect his children from being sold away from his family, in the antebellum period, that in fact was what was happening. The inability to protect his wife from being sexually accosted by his slaveholder. during the Reconstruction period, although black men could now vote, but could they? That's all right. We can figure this out. So that's one of those problems we'll overcome. As I was saying, as black men could now vote after Reconstruction, during Reconstruction.
We don't have audio on Zoom.
So,
You all right?
we good.
Okay. Although black men could now vote, could he prevent the Ku Klux Klan from burning his home and lynching him for attempting to exercise that right to vote? During the Reconstruction period and afterwards, could white society justify the development of the convict lease system that was instrumental in building U.S. Steel and the L&N Railroad, and building those to its capacity on the backs of black men and women, because black women were part of that convict lease system as well. Other evidence, 20th century, where riots such as happened in Atlanta in 1906, East St. Louis 1917, the Red Summer of 1919, Tulsa 1921, all of these are attacks upon the black communities. There was a study done between 1929 and 1940, a study of over 100 lynchings. And this study revealed that at least a third of the victims were actually innocent of what they were accused of. Now, the study said at least a third, but I would go much, much further than that. Yes. In more recent times, in the 1940s, of course, the Tuskegee syphilis cases, Chester, Pennsylvania, in the 1960s. So I'm not attempting to suggest that this is only happening in the South. It happened in America. Like Malcolm said, if you below the Mason-Dixon line, below the Canadian border, we had difficulties with race in this country. So, my emphasis today is looking at how, in fact, black families survived this kind of turmoil. We survived it because of our families. You know, each of us here, each of us that are listening to this, each of us that are sitting here now, we have stories that we can tell about our families, about the individuals in our family, about our communities. All of that is our history. And it's up to us to chronicle this history, bring it to fore, and tell people about it. If we fail to do it, it won't get done. It is necessary for us as a people to know that our history is vital, and it is inclusive of the great things that we learned about Booker T. Washington, W.B. Du Bois, George Washington Carvers. But it's also important to know that those of us who sit here have history as well. I often have come in contact with people who sort of demean black folk that live in the South. And I was one of those that really fought that. And I told my son, Marcus, when he was going off to school, I said, because he said you better get out of Alabama, you never want to see Alabama again. He hated Alabama. I said, well, you will defend Alabama. Yeah. He said, no, I'll never defend Alabama. He went to school in New York. After about a month there, he called me one night. He said, Daddy, guess what I just did? I said, defended Alabama. And he had.
Yeah.
But you are forced to defend it. But see, the Alabama that we defend is not the Alabama that the world knows. It's the Alabama of Tuskegee, of Fairfield, of Raleigh, Truth, Titusville. That is the Alabama that we love and will defend. And we now understand that that is so vitally important, because in defending that, now you're encouraging all of us to put ourselves in a position to defend home. And there's no place like home, and we will defend it to our death.
Amen.